What's up, guys, and welcome back to Retcon Air, the Plotline Repair Podcast. As the name suggests, this is a podcast that takes a look at the plot lines of books, movies, video games, TV shows, and pretty much anything else that we're into. What we do is we break down who wrote the story, how it was received by the community, and how it impacted us. We also take a walk through the main moments of each story and wrap up by adding what we might do a little bit differently if we had a chance to repair a piece of the plotline that, might make the story hit a little bit harder. And usually, depending on our feedback, we'll add some of your suggested changes to the story. Now, we know it's a hell of a lot of ground to cover, so in the show notes, you'll find a table of contents with time codes to serve as a guide for each episode of Retcon Air. Now, just because we cover comments and criticism and even offer our own changes to the story, that doesn't mean we don't absolutely love these pieces of work. We do, and we love having the opportunity to talk about them with you. So, if that sounds good to you, stick around as we break down God of War. Back again is the great and powerful Bryar Fitch. Welcome back, sir. Thank you for coming back to the show.
Hey, man, thanks for having me back. And I'm really digging that great and powerful line. It makes me feel like the Wizard of Oz, but like right before they realized it was just a man behind the curtain, Back when he was still the great and powerful Wizard of Oz.
Well, thank you for being our man behind the curtain. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
We do need to switch gears a little bit. Before we jump into the armory, I do want to take a moment to share the really sad news that we just found out yesterday. So we're recording this on the 29th. On the 28th, the nerd community was hit with some pretty hardcore news. Chadwick Boseman, widely known to the nerd community as King T'Challa or the Black Panther, he passed away after a 4-year battle with cancer. Obviously, we hate cancer in general. Personally, I lost my father-in-law to cancer. So I know exactly how much this sucks to see somebody, to work with them, to think that they're doing great, and then all of a sudden to just see it kind of end. It shocked a ton of people, and it was really, really difficult for a lot of us. In addition to his MCU Marvel work, he did some fantastic projects. He did Message from the King, which I liked a lot. It was super dark. 42, Defy Bloods was his most recent. He's got some other stuff. I looked on his IMDb page. There's one more project that's done, and there's a couple more that were on the way. I don't know how much he was able to do with those other projects, but I know we at least will see one more pieces of his work, which will be good, but we were really, really bummed out about that. So before we get into the armory, he died at 43 years old, which is insane and way, way too young. And just out of respect, what I'd like to do is just take 43 seconds of silence, just out of respect for the loss of a great American actor and really inspirational character. So I'm going to start a clock real quick, and then we're going to just take 43 seconds of silence. So to Chadwick Boseman's family and friends, please accept our sincerest condolences. All right, so on a much lighter note, let's switch gears and let's get back into the armory to talk about what we've been up to. Bryar, why don't you take the lead on this one?
I've been really digging back into Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I kind of got away from it for a while, and it took me a minute to get back into it and really figure out how to play that game again, but now I'm loving it. I'm crushing it. I'm doing the thing. It's good. Then, sprinkle in there a little bit of Red Dead Redemption 2 or, Rootin' Tootin' Cowboy Shootin' 2, whichever one you want to call it.
Whatever. I mean, John Bon Pony, Wesley Pipes. Just some great horse names in there. Ultimate horse simulator is what it is.
It really is. Glue Factory. But yeah, sprinkle in a little bit of that, a little bit of Overwatch, and that's about it, really.
Cool. And for me, we talked about it earlier, I've been so slammed with projects that I haven't really been able to touch my console at all for the last couple of weekends. I did get to spend a lot of time playing with you a lot, but then also on my own, the Marvel's Avengers beta, which I absolutely love. Obviously, the game isn't perfect. There's a lot of controversy right now, people freaking out about microtransactions and stuff. What I'm going to tell you guys right now is what I'm going to tell anybody who buys a game anywhere ever. Like, you don't have to spend any more money than just the cost of the game. If you choose to do so, that's 100% on you. But everything else that they've said so far that's under a paywall is all cosmetic stuff. It doesn't change your gameplay at all. So let me say again, you don't have to drop an extra dime at all other than just the original purchase of the game. If you choose to do that, that's on you. If you choose to not do that, which is what I'm going to not do, that's on me. But I just keep on seeing all this, outrage over microtransactions, and it's just exhausting.
Name a game that doesn't have some form of microtransactions in it.
That stuff in general, for the most part, is optional. And like I remember when I was playing Shadow of War, how many people freaked out. And I remember playing because I have the platinum for Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War. I love that franchise; it's great. I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan, huge Tolkien fan, as are you, and as is Shelby. But I remember, like, as I was almost done with the game, all this shit was going on about like the microtransactions, and I remember really sitting there going like, "What are you talking about? I haven't." What would I spend my money on? And apparently in the store you could buy like better orcs or warriors or whatever else for your like castle or fortress or whatever they were calling it at the time. And I remember like thinking like you unlock all that stuff. If you play the game long enough, like you get all that stuff. If you're lazy, you can buy it. And I remember like I think it was Battlefield 3 where we had spent so much time playing it in the beginning, and then like maybe a year in or maybe like a couple months out, I can't remember how long it was, all of a sudden they started saying, hey, if you don't have time to level up or maybe you're really late to the party, you can pay and max out all your stuff so then you can have all the same gear and abilities as everybody else who's been playing it since the launch. I remember thinking that was weird, but then I also remember understanding it for people that were coming in late to the party that were so under, under leveled to compete with anybody else, that I guess it was cool for them to have that advantage to kind of get back on even footing. But the thing that was different was you would see these people with awesome equipment and weapons, and they wouldn't know how to use them. So even spending your money doesn't really help you. You might have a great, a better weapon than you did before, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be a better player. So I say all that to say, I had a great time with the beta. I cannot wait to get into the full game, and I have no intention of spending any additional money on this at all. There might be one or two character skins that come out which I need to have. Like if, the Chris Evans Captain America skin comes out, I'm going to want to buy that. If, the Robert Downey Jr. Iron Man skin comes out, I'm going to want to buy that just because I'm so into that property. But that's it. I don't need to pay for anything else. Like that, it doesn't make sense. The game that they're making is the game that I want to play. And I just don't understand the outrage. So I say all that to say, a lot of people that are listening to this episode might be new to us just because of all the work that we've done on that beta. We did a bunch of tutorials on how to find the secret mission. There's like a hidden bunker in the Stark Realities mission, and then that unlocks a snowy tundra mission, which is pretty cool. We did a tutorial for that. I did a tutorial for how to replay A-Day because it was the only time you could play as Thor, Captain America, and that helped us out a lot. So I know some people have found us through that. So if you're a first timer, welcome to the show. But just know that I do really love that game. We've had a lot of good times playing with it, and I just really don't understand like just the blatant crazy outrage over this game. It's just insane to me.
I don't get it either. I get people hate microtransactions. I hate microtransactions.
Yeah.
But like, it's like Fortnite, for instance. It's all cosmetic. Who gives a shit?
Right.
It doesn't affect the game in any way, shape, or form. I'm not spending money to get skins, and I say that, but realistically, depending on what they throw out for Thor, I might. But that's not the point. Well, the point is, it's not necessary, so their outrage is also not necessary.
Right. If it was prohibiting you from completing the game, if you could not get the platinum without spending money on it, addition to what you've already spent on it, then yeah, completely unacceptable behavior. Not okay at all. If I couldn't platinum Shadow of War until I spent whatever money in their in-game store, if that was like a lock, then I would be completely outraged. But that's not what they're saying. What they're saying is if you want to have all these extra skins and stuff, there's these battle passes, and they're like $10 and it's all this other stuff. And then apparently from what I understand is you can use all your credits and level out one person. And then once you max out that hero card, it resets, you get all that back, and then you can invest that into another one. And there's like 2 articles that I read that said you don't have to spend any money on the first 6 characters at all if you don't want to. You're more than welcome to do so. And Crystal Dynamics and Square Enix and Sony obviously want you to do so. But if you're patient enough and you play the game enough, I don't think that you're going to have to spend any additional money if you don't want to. I'm sure people will, because we like to buy stuff that we want, and people are generally impulsive, but you won't have to. And I really challenge everybody to just chill the fuck out in general. Like, the amount of outrage over everything. Like, I remember specifically, there's like the at Play Avengers is like the official like Avengers Twitter account. And then there's like a handful of sub accounts that like support that game, which I kind of call it skitching marketing, where they're kind of like bandwagoning off of like the big brand. And I totally get that. It totally works. I totally respect that as a marketing ploy or whatever. But there was one specifically that completely didn't finish reading the article before they started blasting and retweeting and just highlighting different stuff. So what I did was I started screenshotting the bottom paragraph that specifically outlined you don't have to spend any money. All this stuff is unlockable. It's not a really big deal at all. And then they started deleting their tweets because people are really quick to flame something, but they're not as quick to actually read it all and understand it. So like
reading's hard, man.
It is. And like in broadcast journalism, the whole thing is like, well, we want to be first. We want to be first. It's like, no, you want to be right. Be right first, then say whatever you want to. But it just, this whole trend of outrage first and fact second, it's got to stop. In every area, it's got to stop. It's just driving me crazy. But enough about Avengers. We're here to talk about God of War. So let's move on to the writer's room, where we discuss who wrote and contributed to the piece. Bryar, if you would be so kind.
God of War was developed by Sony Santa Monica Studios and written by Matthew Sophos. Sophos? Did I say it right?
I don't know.
You said really made me think like I nailed it first time.
It felt really good, and I just wanted to let you have it, and then I took it away from you.
Yeah, thanks, man. So Matthew, Richard Zangrande. Why do you give me the name?
And let me be clear, he's not laughing at your name. Richard, you're not listening, but if you were, he's not laughing at your name. He's laughing that I keep on giving him all the hard, difficult words. So go ahead. Like, it's like Ariana Grande. So Richard Zangrande.
Richard, that's nice. So can you say it again?
Zangrande.
Richard Zangrande Gaubert? What's that, Gaubert?
What the I don't know that that's right. Let's go ahead and finish, and then I'll make the official apology, as we do in every episode. Go ahead.
You need to stop giving me names. I don't know why you make me do this. And, of course, Cory Barlog. Sophos wrote and directed Lost Planet 3 and also helped design Medal of Honor, Allied Assault, Pacific Assault, and European Assault. A lot of assaults.
Well, in addition, and all those are like iterations of the Medal of Honor series. It's like 3 different chapters. So I'm not really. Oh, okay. I never really played them, but like as I was reading it, so I guess he's super into the Medal of Honor series, and then he made Allied Assault and Pacific Assault and European Assault, which is pretty dope.
Yeah, Medal of Honor was never like one of those series I really got into. Like, I played a little bit of it back in the PS2 days, but I mean, not a whole lot. I think like Rising Sun was really the only one I really got into. But anyways, so those in addition to a few other projects.
And then Richard wrote and directed some of the Watchmen animated TV series, a handful of TV shorts. He also wrote on Lost Planet 3, which is pretty cool. He wrote Whiplash. Anachronox, and then Cory Barlog, who I thought for the longest time his name was Balrog, which I thought was fucking rad. And then
I almost said that, actually.
Yeah, and so I had to double check the spelling because I was like, oh shit, Cory Balrog, like from like Lord of the Rings? That's the fucking coolest last name I've ever heard. But no, Cory Barlog is the writer and creative director of Sony Santa Monica Studios. This dude was an animator on X-Men Next Dimension, Backyard Wrestling, and God of War. He wrote and directed God of War 2, was a story writer for God of War Chains of Olympus, and laid out the story for God of War 3 and God of War Goes to Sparta. He left to work for Crystal Dynamics on the Tomb Raider reboot, which I liked. That was the one that came to PlayStation 4, and then they threw the other one behind Xbox One for like a year. And then he came. So when he was at Crystal Dynamics working or finishing up, I think Tomb Raider, that's when they were kind of talking about the future of God of War, and he ended up leaving to go back to reboot the franchise, which is pretty cool. Which is, in general, that guy is awesome. Him and his wife are both very, very cool. I follow them both on Twitter. They're both really just decent people. I like them a lot.
Awesome. Onto the game development side. The lead gameplay designer was Jason McDonald, who has worked on God of War since the original launch of it. The reason the Leviathan Axe is in the game I don't know why I said as. The reason the Leviathan Axe is in the game is they wanted Kratos to have a similar attribute to Thor's hammer, which fucking is awesome. Which is why the axe can be returned when summoning it. It's pretty fucking cool. All right, that axe is honestly one of my favorite parts of the entire game.
It is. It handles so well. The design of it is fantastic, and
It's fluid too. It works perfectly.
Well, and even to like, there was a point where I was playing it again earlier, and like I was there's a point where you take Mimir to the top of this place, he blows on the horn, and then that giant, the World Serpent comes over. And there was a point where I'm sitting up there, and I just started throwing my axe in the water and just watching it. And like, not only can you hear the distance of it, like kind of getting quieter and quieter, you can see the splash. It's reactive, so the game even though you have no business throwing your axe over there, it'll totally let you do it, and it'll totally respond. And then you can summon it back, and it comes from where it's fantastic.
I used to like to just chuck it as far as I could, and then just like do whatever, and like 10 minutes later, just like,
and it'll come
flying back.
Sometimes it takes a minute, and then it gets there. But it was so cool, so fucking cool. Anyway,
it really was. I like to throw it at one dude, freeze him in place, and just beat the shit out of like all the other people. And then as I pull it back, it comes flying through like 3 people to get to me. It's like,
My favorite thing to do was in the beginning of a battle, just throw it in the ground, be like, I don't need that. That's just extra. And then just bare knuckle, just destroy everybody. Like, what?
Tell you what, let me even the playing field. Throw it in the ground. Yeah. All right.
There are clearly a lot of you, and I feel like you think that's enough. But let me also ditch this fucking thing because I don't need it, and let's go ahead and have at it. It was amazing. That game is fantastic. Spoilers, we love this game a lot. So anyway.
A lot. All right, so moving on. Back to game development. Vince Napoli worked on the axe, the variety of chained blades, the shield, and the bare-handed combat mode for Kratos.
So good.
So a big reason the game handles so well is because of McDonald and Napoli. So big props to them. Oh, yeah. Thanks.
And so
you did good work.
Before I let you keep going, so this is the point where I apologize to anybody whose name we've mentioned and butchered. So we do sincerely apologize. I wish that we weren't so stupid at just reading in general.
I wish Devin wouldn't give me all of the names because he knows I'm going to butcher them.
But that's why I'm doing the apology. So you screw it up, and then I make it right. So that's how that works. So again.
Oh, cool. So good cop, bad cop.
So
I'm always the bad cop.
As I say in every episode, that it is unfortunate that we have reading disabilities. However, now you are anchored in Retcon lore because that we butchered your name like we butcher everybody's name. So we don't. I call you Jason all day and Richard all day, but like I really suck at last names. I wish I was better at it, but
My apologies for my borderline illiterateness. So.
Anyway.
So, moving on. That being said, let's go ahead and run into the Deep Impact segment where we break down how we and the community reacted to the game.
For sure. And so I would like to start by talking about the community reaction to the reboot. Because the God of War reveal at E3 is still hands down the best that I've ever seen before. And I think, especially now in light of the fact that everybody's realizing that they don't need E3 as much, I think that E3, as it kind of like goes, by the wayside, they'll look back and they'll remember, like, fuck, remember when we used to like spend time together and do these big things and stuff like that. We'll probably get back to there at some point, obviously, when the world kind of gets back, together and stuff like that. But 2016 E3, that Sony, cavalcade of different games and stuff, still to this day like gives me goosebumps when I think back about it. So just to set the table, PlayStation, Sony, they had a live orchestra playing the score for all of the games that were demoed there. So it wasn't just a trailer where you were just press and play. It was, you were watching gameplay live while the orchestra was playing. So with this one,
which is amazing.
It was absolutely amazing. So we're sitting there, it's all dark, you see the orchestra, and then this guy steps up to conduct it, a guy that we didn't know who also wrote the score for the game, a musician named Bear McCreary. I'll drop a link so you guys can watch it if you haven't seen it. If you were new to the gaming industry or whatever, for whatever reason, if you just didn't see it, like, you need to watch it just because as a testament from how you can promote something. I've never seen anything better than it. It was fantastic. So you see the orchestra setting the tone. They're just playing for like 5 minutes. Bear's going nuts. The band is going hard. There's this chick on stage and she's got a fucking drum and she's beatboxing and you're like, what the this is fucking great. And then all of a sudden you see Corey Barlog on stage and he's playing the game. You see this boy. He's outside and he's kind of playing with these toys, like we all did back in the day. But then you hear somebody from inside go, boy. And then the boy gets up, he kind of ditches his toys and he kind of runs in. The man tells him, hey, you should take your mother's knife. And he's like, what? He's like, well, it's kind of for a test. And then the man steps out of the shadows, tosses a bow, and then you see Kratos, who's older, has a beard, you hear the fan react. They're like all of the crowd, the audience at E3 just start going insane because they're like, is this fucking God of War? Like, is what the fuck is going on right here? But then when he steps out of the shadows, absolutely amazing. Like, everybody freaked out. And then, like, it was a live gameplay to a live orchestra, which I've never seen before. And just the fact that, God of War had really kind of lost its luster to a certain point. And then that's a big part of the reason that they brought Corey back, because he had some ideas of let's freshen this up. Let's go ahead and take a different tone. Let's go ahead and age Kratos a little bit. And it still, like, even thinking about it now gives me goosebumps, because it was one of my favorite gaming moments I've ever had. Like, watching you get excited to play as Hulk in the Hulkbuster armor was up there. But then also the God of War reveal, 100% is one of my all-time favorite moments. It was absolutely fantastic.
That's awesome, man.
What did you watch that? Like, do you remember what I'm talking about?
Judge me all you want, but like, I've never really been big on E3. Like, it's cool. I love the premise of it. I love the idea, but like, I never sat down to watch it. Like, I never like made the day of like, all right, today I'm watching E3. Right. Like, I think our buddy Cam used to have people over and would hang out and watch E3 all day. Like,
oh yeah,
that was just never something like I cared about. Like, all right, cool. Let me know what games are being announced. I'll watch the trailers when I get a chance. But like, I don't know. E3 was just never something I needed to be a part of. So I didn't really like. I think I saw. I know I didn't see that God of War announcement live. I think I watched it later on after the fact, and like, it was fucking cool as hell.
Oh yeah,
it was awesome. Loved it. But like, I didn't have that like in the moment experience.
And that's fair. And you said that you tell us later on that you did. I didn't know that you didn't play any of the other games. I had no idea.
Yeah, this one was I tried playing the first one back on PS2, but the copy of it I was borrowing off a buddy of mine was so scratched.
Oh fuck! You guys remember that? You guys remember scratched discs? Jesus Christ! Oh man. Good for you. I love this podcast. I love this so much. I don't do this for you guys. I do this for me. I just want you to know that. If you guys are into the show and you want to hang out with us, that's great. But I just really enjoyed talking about this stuff prior.
Do you remember in the first God of War, your ship, like, you're shipwrecked or some shit, and you're kind of just climbing through the wreckage, and there's like a hydra or some sort of sea fuck.
You gotta climb up and like grab shit and like throw it at him. Yeah, I remember that was a great boss battle.
So I remember the first, like, you're crawling through the ship and the head keeps coming in at you or something like that. The CD skipped and essentially PS2 version crashed there. And then it did it again right when I got to the boss battle. I was like, fuck it, I'm out.
Well, that was your fault for not already owning it. But so that sucks. That sucks that that's what took you out of it. It had nothing to do with the actual game. It was the copy of the game that you had that sucked.
Yeah.
Well, that's not fair.
But yeah. But again, just to kind of recap, I didn't watch the E3 live announcement. I watched it later. It was cool. It was awesome. I thought that it was the coolest way to announce it, but I also didn't have the hype that like you did because I hadn't played the other ones.
Right. That's just fair.
So I was like, okay, cool. New God of War. That's awesome. Looks fucking great. I'm sure you guys are going to love playing it and have fun.
Well, and so to me, it's interesting that you said that you were never like an E3 guy, because to me, E3 was like Nerd Super Bowl. That's when everything came together. That's when like the consoles were announced and the new games were announced and like Jedi Fallen Order and shit like that. Like, you would watch E3 for the reveals, and then as time went on, they like, if 2016 was the capstone for the peak of gaming reveals, I think it was that very next year, 2017, where they wanted to do this PlayStation experience where like they were forcing this crowd of people like into this room and then into this room and then into this room. And then what they were doing with the viewers is they would throw us outside to like a Q&A panel. And then when they're ready, throw us back inside to whatever was going on. To them, they were like, oh, this is immersion. But they completely botched it. And it was probably one of the most embarrassing reveals I've ever seen. And I'm a huge Sony fan, PlayStation person. Like, I am that guy. And so it was just crazy to go like from 2016, which was like the best I've ever seen, live orchestra, live gameplay, completely fantastic reveals, to the next year where they completely fucked it up. I was just like, what? And then like, it started to die down, and then like with the pandemic, it all kind of went away. And then at that point, I was like, good, we don't really need E3 anymore. Like I said before,
wasn't it Sony was the first ones to branch off, just like, nah, fuck this, we're out, and just do their own?
They were, I think, one of the first ones to bail, and then after that, everybody else started to bail too, because they realized there's so many other ways to do it. So. Say all that to say, it was great, and I was really excited about it, and I'm really excited to talk about it. So why don't we get into some reviews, shall we?
Yeah, sure, why not?
All right. So right now, God of War sits with a Metacritic score of 94. It's
well deserved.
Well deserved, and I have no idea what the fuck they're doing, but like it's considered as a must play. So I don't know if that's like a Rotten Tomatoes certified fresh kind of thing. It feels like that, but I couldn't agree more. The user score is 9.1. The Metacritic overall score is 94, so just that's how that works. As I
that user score is out of 10 then, right?
I guess that would make more sense.
Say.
Yeah, so
if the comparison,
if the Metacritic score is out of 100, then it would make sense that the user score is out of 10. So that makes sense. So when I clicked on the critic reviews, there were no bad, no mixed at all. I hadn't really seen that in a long time. They're all positive, which is insane. In the user comment section, it's a very different story, but critically acclaimed, this is fantastic. So the top positive comment that I pulled, and all that means is it's not like it's ranked or whatever, it's just the one that I like the most. I pulled from Giant Bomb. They add some really good context here, and they gave it a 100. So they say, quote, perhaps most importantly, I didn't know how much more ground could be covered with Kratos as a character, which I completely agreed with. Like I could not agree more. The new Nordic mythology obviously gives Sony Santa Monica plenty of new material to play with, but it's the new Kratos that's responsible for the game's most striking evolution. God of War grew up, and the result is the best entry in the series. And again, I could not agree more.
Hell yeah, man.
All right, so why don't you take us through the negative review?
Yeah. All the negative Nancys of the world.
Oh, yeah. Haters gonna hate.
So the top negative comment you pulled. I didn't write
You can take credit. I don't give a shit. You can take credit for it. Bryar wrote the script. So the top negative comment that Bryar pulled as he was writing the script
was from a person that goes by the handle of Mindurbidness.
Which I fucking died.
How are you going to have that as your name and then also give reviews and whatnot?
Well, I looked at some of the other reviews, and this person doesn't seem like a fun person to hang out with. There's a lot of that. I've been noticing that a lot more is the more I start to meet people online, there's a lot of them that I'm like, I would never hang out with you in real life. But anyway, keep going.
All right, so Mindurbidness gave God of War 4 out of, I'm assuming, 10. And he says, do you like QTEs? How about unskippable cutscenes? Stiff, janky, slow combat? Then I've got a game you're gonna love. I hate everything about this review already. Presenting God of War, aka the last god of Dark Souls, which I actually don't hate that name.
It is a pretty good name. I'll give him that. Or her.
All jokes aside, this game is nothing the hype surrounding it would have you believe. Kratos is now only a god. I don't understand any of this. Anyways, Kratos is now only a god in name since he's just Grumpy Dad #1.
Aren't we all?
Yeah, I'm Grumpy Dad 24/7. You can ask my wife and kid. I'll tell you. None of the brilliantly difficult styles of puzzles from the older titles transferred to this one. False. Instead, puzzles consist of throw axe, pull switch, retrieve axe. Also, those epic level boss fights from the other titles, who needs them? I don't like this person.
Nor do I.
What I want to know is, did they finish the game, or did they just get like an hour into it and then write a shitty review?
I'd argue that they probably didn't even really play it.
Probably. So to continue on. Now you can fight a dozen identical trolls, a few identical rock monsters. I don't know why, but rock lobster just popped in my head. And a bro with some serious mommy issues. This is not God of War. I'm going to disagree with you, sir.
Yeah, everything that you said I disagree with, which is fine. So I will mind my business, and you mind yours.
You're entitled to your wrong opinion.
Exactly, as we all are. Opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one, and they all stink. But speaking of that, what did we think? What did you think about the reboot? So I know that you didn't come from the franchise, but what did you think about it overall?
I mean, as someone who hasn't played any of the previous God of Wars at all, I loved this game. Loved it so much. Also, I'm a big fan of like Norse mythology in general, which kind of played into my love of this game.
Yeah.
But still, the game was incredible. And if you don't think so, well, you're wrong.
Yeah. Normally we don't like to take opinions as fact, but like it's, I think, science that this game is fantastic. And if you don't know, now you know. So for me, as I said earlier, I was so pumped for the game after the reveal. The style of that first, like the way that the woods looked and that deer that they were hunting looked, like everything about it, in like the Leviathan Axe and like the hand-to-hand combat, it all looked like 100% an evolved version of the game that I love playing on my PlayStation and my PSP back in the day. Like I think Chains of Olympus that Corey wrote on was the PSP title, and I remember when I was in the Marines taking that with me. Like, I remember sitting there on a cot in South Korea, and I was playing Chains of Olympus, and I remember how cool that was. I love that. Like, the series is fantastic. And so, like a lot of people, I was also a new dad when this game came out. And then it felt a lot different of a little kind of, like, it hit me differently. Like, it's, you know, when you play as just a single person or as, you know, even a married person with no kids, there's just stuff that just doesn't really resonate with you. Once you become a dad, and, like, family is a huge part of the franchise in general, but, like, even more so in this game about what it means to be a dad, what it means to be a good dad versus, like, a shitty dad. And there were so many jokes about, like, this game is Dad of War, and, like, you know, well, did the game make you a better father? And, like, hey, fuck you. If a good story makes you really rethink the way that you're operating as an individual, isn't that great writing? And the fact that so many actual fathers really thought about, like, how do I treat my kid? What am I saying to them when I want them? When I want them to do something, do I actually call them by their name, or to just say, hey, kid, come here, or whatever? And I thought there were a lot of really great lessons here throughout the entire game that really, really made the story something that was easy to hold on to, and, like, for me to root for, like, Kratos to stop being such a shitty ass dad, and for, like, Atreus and him to, like, get on better terms and stuff. It was fascinating.
It really made you appreciate that character development,
Yeah,
and the bond between them, watching it grow.
yeah,
So, like, I think my kid was like a year when I started playing this game. So, like, I don't know, man. The game was great. Being a parent does make you really appreciate that bond that Kratos and Atreus have a little bit more.
Absolutely.
You know?
And most games going forward will have that hold for me. But I've been playing since, like, 89. So I grew up with a bunch of different... I am. I'm an older gamer. So, like, I feel like me and Corey, you know, I want to call him Balrog so bad. Or Barlog or whatever. But, like, we're on the same, like, kind of place in life. Obviously, professionally, we're different places, but, like, as far as, like, our life experiences, they're very similar. So it felt very much like he was trying to tell me a story that he was experiencing, and then if you watch the movie Raising Kratos, there's a lot of that in there about him being a new dad and what that means and how that looks and all that other stuff. And it translated in the game so well. So I loved it. If you played the original franchise, which you hadn't, Kratos is slinging tattoo dingling everywhere. Like, there are orgies in every game almost. You find these parts into this, you know, the guy that was, like, talking about QuickTime events. There are seriously different game modes where you're just button mashing and stuff because you're banging 3 or 4 different women at once. Like,
I've watched so many videos talking about the older games, and 1 out of 3 videos all mention
so you have
vast majority of Kratos themed orgies.
OG Hound Kratos just slaying everybody,
slinging dingling.
And but now he's settled down, he's a lot older, he's got different responsibilities, and he is still super distant, but then he's trying to figure that out, and that's, a lot of people could just connect to that story, and I really, really did. So it was great. So when I
think a lot of, like, him being distanced too can be accredited to the, and again, this is me just pulling info from stories and whatnot. Like, I have a very base understanding of the whole story, like, thus far, but, like, just the whole Zeus is a giant dickhole, and he hates, you know, Kratos hates his dad too. So I don't know, I feel like a part of that too is, like, and you explore it later in the game, we'll talk about it later, but, like, he doesn't want the same for his son that he has with his papa. So, you know, like, I think a lot of that is why he's so distant too. And, like, everyone can, I don't want to say everyone, a lot of people had, like, great, you know, families growing up, but, like, a lot of people can relate to that too. Like, all right, me and my dad, you know, maybe didn't have the best one, I want to have a better relationship with my son. It's that whole character development side of it.
Absolutely. So
people hating on this game just to hate on this game.
Well, that's been happening a lot, so I'm not going to give you guys another from talking to, but I should. Alright, so when I first fired up God of War, I was looking at all the difficulty settings, and the first one I was like, I saw Give Me God of War. I'm like, yeah, that's why I bought this game. I want God of War. So I put it on that first difficulty, and I dove into the game, and I got my ass handed to me over and over and over. I played that game for probably 20 minutes, just dying mercilessly, and I was like, fuck this game. And then I was like, oh, you're an idiot. You need to go ahead and dial back the difficulty settings. So I did, and that helped a lot. So once I went back and I put it on a normal setting, then I went through and I had a blast. Game was fantastic. This was the exact best way to do New Game Plus for any developer that's thinking about it. I know Jedi Fallen Order and I have some strong beef about the way that they did New Game Plus, because their thing was like, well, we can't give you all the powers because it doesn't really make sense contextually in the story. Well, bullshit, because in God of War, there are specific reasons that you can use your Blades of Chaos for puzzle solving. Now, if you have your Blades of Chaos, you can use, like, they're fire built, so you can use that to destroy these, like, vines and stuff to open crates and stuff, which was great. You can still do that in New Game Plus. What it blocks you from doing, though, is if you open an area that you're not ready to be in yet, it just turns it off. You can't climb that wall or open that thing or whatever else. So you can still have all your abilities, and the game can still keep you out of the areas that you're not ready to be in without damaging gameplay overall. So if anybody is telling you that, well, it just doesn't for story purposes, that's bullshit. You can play God of War and get New Game Plus is the best I've ever seen in God of War. Hands down.
Truth.
Just say it. So, anyway. Enough about what we think about it. Why don't we get into There and Back again to talk about this incredible story. So, Bryar, why don't you take us through the synopsis, and then we'll go from there.
All right, the synopsis. After the death of his mother, a young boy named Atreus struggles to fulfill her dying wish. The road to the highest mountain in all of the 9 realms of Norse mythology is perilous and full of monsters and demons and some dragons and some other things that want to kill you, both hidden and in plain sight. But fortunately, the boy has someone to escort him along the way, the god of war himself, Kratos.
Now, I am a little offended because you ad-libbed on my very well-written synopsis, because again, every time I find a synopsis, it's trash. But you know what? You did pretty good. I was actually proud of you. You did
Thanks,
good work
man.
here, sir. Well done. Well done.
Thank you.
All right, so...
I will say, too, real quick, I do enjoy reading your synopsis, because I know you wrote it yourself, so I'm like, all right, let's just buckle in for this paragraph ride we're about to take.
Well, and I do try. Like, I got it all in there, and I think I did a good job of summing it up. So, anyway.
Yeah, man.
Why don't we get into Chapter 1, Can You Hunt? So the story starts off in a fantastic way. The menu screen of the game is actually the first scene, which I thought was fucking crazy. Mm-hmm. So, once you figure out what your difficulty setting is going to be and then you start it, your first action is to cut down one of the trees that you've been staring at the entire time. I don't know why I like that so much, but it was just so cool. And, like, it not only introduces you to the style, to the world, but it also introduces you to, like, one of the other main characters, which is the Leviathan Axe. Because I think that these weapons are just as much of a character as the character, the Kratos and Atreus and everybody else. So I just thought that was such a cool way to do that, Like, just, you're looking at the menu, you pick your stuff, you start, and then bam, you're cutting down a tree. Like, I just thought that was so cool.
Well, it's even cool too because like it puts you right into it. Like, all right, now let's go, as opposed to like sitting through like a loading screen and like sitting through a cutscene where it's doing some background information. It's just like you hit. All right, I want middle difficulty because I don't want to. I don't want the story handed to me, and then boom, in it, let's go. And that's awesome. That's really cool how they did that. I actually forgot that was the main scene until you'd said that. So after Kratos goes full Paul Bunyan on that shit, he very easily just grabs a tree, tosses it on his shoulder, and starts walking along to this little old boat that he has tied up by the river.
Very strong man, that Kratos. Very strong.
Dude, super strong. Just chucks it in the water, ties it to the boat, and just rows upstream. They take the tree back to the cabin, and Kratos starts hacking up the tree to build a pyre for the deceased mom to be cremated on. Mm-hmm. The boy has his final moments with her, and then Kratos, with a solemn scowl as ever, burns the fuck out of her. After cremating the body of his wife Faye, Kratos gets no second to rest and is confronted by a mysterious man who sounds like he is tripping balls.
So then we get to enjoy a good old-fashioned slugfest. Now the combat in this game is one of the things that everybody loves about it, and for me it's why I'm so hopeful for the Marvel Avengers game, because Bryar, who designed the combat for Thor?
The same guy who did in God of War.
One of the same guys. So that guy's name was Vince Napoli, or Napoli, depending on how you want to say it. But yeah, they both worked on the combat design.
Which is fantastic.
It is.
This game is why I'm so excited to play as Thor in the Avengers.
Yeah, now in the beta, I'll admit that it wasn't as tight as it was in God of War. And honestly...
Which I'm okay with.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be, and it probably shouldn't be, because, you're a single-player mission as opposed to you're able to play all of the Avengers. So I totally get it. It just wasn't as tight, and I'm not worried about it. So I still like that so much of the core gameplay is from there. And that totally makes sense because it's Kratos' gameplay is rooted in Thor anyway. So then the parallel was genius, and I can't imagine how much they paid Vince to come over, but I'm glad they did. Good for you, Vince. Good for you,
man. But yeah, Vince has been throwing down some quality game combat designs since 05. Dude's crafted tools of death in games like Mass Effect 2, BioWare, and has elite combat design in a ton of areas.
Pretty sick.
Yeah, dude. Sick. So Kratos does what he does best and beats the hell out of this dude. They exchange some blows. It's pretty intense. It's an awesome first fight scene
Oh,
in the game. It's a good way to start.
And
this
it's
game.
really early. Everything big happens really early. Like, they're really good about, like, hey, dude, this is what this game is, and this is how we're gonna do it. And I don't care if you're into it, because this is what we're doing. And it's very cool.
But anyways, with this a-hole defeated, Kratos and Atreus strike out on their journey to find the tallest peak in all the 9 realms. Along the journey, they reach the Lake of the Nine and encounter the World Serpent, Jormungandr. Nailed it.
Well, I thought...
No, it is not pronounced Jägermeister. I see your notes in there. That's not even close. I thought about saying it just to kind of give you that, but I was like, no.
It's fine. Yeah, and you said it perfectly. Like, I was in a part of the game before we started this, and he just said, like, oh, you wouldn't know what to see, but, Jormungandr is a great conversationalist. It's like, shut up, Mimir. You fucking... All right, so anyway. So you encounter the World Serpent, Jormungandr, and honestly, for me, like, I would have quit the mission right then and there. Like, if you come at me with something called the World Serpent, you can fuck right off. Like, Mom's ashes get tossed in the water right over the boat. I just, go ahead and cross one off, and then we canoe our happy asses back to that cabin, and then, we learn not to suck at hunting. Maybe we move on. Yeah, we're a little sad, but there's a giant fucking World Serpent that's as big as I've ever seen, and I don't got the time for it,
Yeah, no, I agree completely. If I paddled out into it and just, because that whole scene, you just toss, you find the note from Faye on the thing telling you to toss your axe. Mm-hmm. The boy deciphers and tells you, yeah, man, just throw the axe in the river. Which, I mean, like, there's no reason for you to not do it. You can summon it back. Get it back. Kratos is like, whatever, chucks it. And then it doesn't come back.
Yeah, I was like,
and then the World Serpent comes up and is like, bro, and starts doing his crazy talk and just spits the axe out.
Yeah.
Like, all right, have a nice day, sir.
Yeah.
Sorry for bothering you. And then I row home.
Yeah. Did I wake you? I'm so sorry. You don't have to have time to talk to me about anything. Literally, we're going to go.
Are you hungry? You can have my boy as a snack. Just... I'm a leave.
I've never liked this kid. I'll be real honest with you. I've never liked him. Honestly, this is awkward for both of us. He's going to get worse. So, anyway.
So, along this journey, there are a handful of people that you're going to meet. While they travel, there's a point where Kratos encourages Atreus to practice shooting his bow and arrow at an animal.
You got to practice. He sucked at killing that deer,
Yeah, man. I mean, which sucks, too, because he did kill the deer, and then that crazy-ass, like, troll thing comes up and just snags it away from him. I'm like, bro, my kid actually did the thing and you're gonna be a dick. I
can't even teach it how to clean this thing. You selfish troll.
I'm glad we killed him.
Yeah, for real.
Dickhead troll. Anyways. So we're like, all right, let's practice some more. We're going through the woods. We find a pig. Mm-hmm. So we're all like, Atreus, shoot the pig.
Bacon, pork chops, let's ride.
Let's ride. So Atreus tracks the animal, takes a nice clean shot, drills the pig right in its piggy side, and the pig runs off. The pig goes wee 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 all the way home.
And no, for the most part, we look at this as an absolute win. But turns out
the boy did the thing.
There's this nice lady who happens to be best friends with that pig, which is weird, and she's real pissed off that you just let your kid shoot it, especially when you tell her that it was just for practice. Because she's like, practice? You're like, yeah, I don't know.
Duh. I mean, to be fair, how the hell were we supposed to know that this is a special pig?
Right.
And that she was BFFs with it? It's not, the thing's not wearing a name tag.
Yeah, doesn't got pants on.
I see a pig, I see bacon.
Exactly. It's not wearing a shirt or anything. It says, don't shoot. I'm cool.
I tell jokes, please don't kill me. So, like, I'm sorry. I was trying to teach my boy a valuable life lesson of hunting so he can feed himself and not die. You're right. I'm the asshole.
Right. You befriended breakfast. That's on you.
That's on you. So anyway, she guilt trips you into helping her save her dumb pig because she makes you carry that heavy-ass thing all the way back to her bomb-ass turtle treehouse.
Which, let's pause here for a second, because how fucking cool was that? Like, the art style of it, the concept of the tree being on top of, like, a living turtle, and the fact that it can move and, like, and everything is reliant. Like, that the house is built into the turtle, so as it stands up, like, everything, like, it's crazy game design. Insane game design. So good. So this fucking asshole from earlier that was talking about, like, there's no giant monster fights. Okay. So first of all, like, you still have these giant cinematic, incredible set pieces. So you don't fight the turtle, but it's still an incredible thing to marvel at. Like, it's an incredible just game design, and I loved it. I loved it.
And also, you fight a giant fucking dragon. Multiple dragons, but you're forced to fight this giant fucking dragon. What do you mean there's no big-ass boss fights? Man, shut up.
Yeah, play the game. Again.
I also don't understand his whole unskippable cutscenes. Like, why would you want to?
And
they're telling you so much of the story. Why would you want to skip it?
And I thought you could. Like, there's a bunch of people that you talk to that can just skip right through it. So I don't know. Anyway.
I don't know. Anyways, moving on. I like to think that every kid, as soon as they realize what a treehouse is, suddenly has like all these great fantasies about having an awesome treehouse.
Yeah.
It's like, I know I did.
I did.
I tried to build one in the backyard. I got as far as like nailing 2x4s to the tree to get to the ladder, and then I ran out of wood.
Nice.
So
Hate that.
not a lot of planning on my part.
Right, makes sense.
Anyways, she had the coolest treehouse of them all.
She did.
It's underneath of a giant fucking turtle. And like it has this whole cave system too, so she has not only the coolest treehouse, but also potentially like the coolest man cave I've ever seen ever.
Yeah. Which cave? Yeah.
God, what I wouldn't give to live under a giant turtle, you know?
We've all been there. We've all thought that.
But back in her house, that has now grown about 10 feet because the turtle stood up. She makes Kratos grab some special secret ingredients to cure the pig from its arrow wound. He does it, and she kind of chills out a little bit, and like hates you just a little bit less, just like a little
just
enough
not
less
too much,
to tolerate you.
Right. She doesn't kill you, you know.
Yeah. So with the promise of pork chops and bacon thrown out the window, the dynamic Nordic duo, as we're going to call them now, strike back out into the world to spread those ashes atop that high mountain.
But of course, they obviously can't just waltz right up the mountain, right? You know.
No, the game would be over in like 20 minutes.
I mean, and would have been that tough, you know? Because spoilers, they do all this, and they end up climbing the mountain that's not really mountain-y enough to be the mountain mentioned in the request to spread ashes at its peak. So, like, that's infuriating that all this work and it's the wrong fucking mountain.
I'd legit be pissed off if I got up there, and then to find out, like, hey, man, wrong mountain. It's just like...
Okay, so there's now two exactly.
Ashes.
This is the second time. The first time is I'm looking at the World Serpent. I'm like, nope, bag goes over the side. The second time is I get to the top of the wrong mountain. I'm like, nope, bag goes over the side. Either way,
like,
the ashes are just in the pile.
Faye's defense, she did say tallest mountain in the 9 realms, but she could have literally said, hey, the mountain at Jotunheim.
Yeah, you're gonna want to go to Jotunheim. You're in Midgard, and that's not where the biggest mountains are.
And that's fine. But I need you to go to Jotunheim.
Yeah, so she's the word. Yeah, you didn't kill the pig, you just shot it. You know, grow up, Faye. Or not Faye, Freya. Grow up, Freya.
Yeah, Freya.
Anyway.
Yeah, I'd be not happy at all. Yeah. But anyways, so the lady who, with the pig, we accidentally shot her, we've said it now, her name is Freya. She shows up to help us. Just magically shows up halfway up this mountain with us because there's this black mist blocking the way.
Yep.
And she's like, hey, I'm here to help.
Holla.
So we make it to the top. We see Baldur, the guy who we beat the piss out of earlier and tossed him off a cliff. He's supposed to be dead. What a twist. He's not dead. We see him with 2 other little dickholes with him. They look like they're part of a Norwegian metal band. And
honestly,
I'm not
yeah, I'm here for it. There's this badass band called Ailstorm, and they do what's called pirate metal. And these dudes could totally be part of that pirate metal band, Ailstorm, which you should all check out.
I'm here for it.
Yeah,
I support it.
So anyway, these 3 dudes are talking to somebody that you can't quite see. You can hear him, but you can't see him. And eventually those 3 guys, they leave because they're not getting what they're looking for. And then you climb up the mountain to see a guy talking. Was a tree?
Not exactly. This is where we meet my boy, Mimir. My dude. Badass character. Witty, funny, tells jokes. He's pretty dope. He knows all. He sees all. He's known all.
Good storyteller, you know?
Yeah, man. You're just honestly a great conversationalist.
Oh, yeah.
And
good listener.
I can't really do much else aside from listen and talk. Yeah, he's dope. He knows all, but he doesn't really know shit when it comes to Kratos because Kratos is kind of an anomaly in this world.
Well, he's from a different mythology altogether. It's very confusing.
Yeah, man. So Mimir and Kratos get to chatting, as you do. It's a very one-sided conversation.
Always is.
Turns out this is where they find out that they're not even on the right mountain. The mountain they need is in Jotunheim, the realm of the giants. Which makes sense that the tallest mountain would be in the giant world. Yeah, so I get it.
Yeah, for sure.
Mimir knows how to get there, but he's currently bound to a tree via a lovely little curse by none other than Odin himself.
Great guy.
What a dick. Very different views. And apparently Odin doesn't treat his prisoners too well.
And so Kratos, being a good sport, agrees to fulfill Mimir's request to have his head removed. And that's
right off.
only so he can help Kratos and Atreus on their quest.
I do like how Kratos made Atreus look away too.
Yeah,
like
you're gonna not want.
You're gonna want to turn around. You're not gonna want to watch Dad take this dude's head off.
You're gonna never forget this moment, and you're never gonna want to eat again. So you're gonna want to head and just shove it off that way.
Look, I remember how messed up I was after I saw my first beheading. You are way too young. Turn it around.
So Kratos obliges, and then we get this little rumor that Kratos needs to tell the boy the truth, and he really doesn't want to. And Kratos, being true Kratos, and if he doesn't want to talk to something, he's not going to. So instead of just admitting that Mimir is right, he just cuts Mimir's head off, which I respect.
Yeah, man. It's what real friends do. We avoid confrontation. We just hack each other's heads off.
Oh, yeah.
All right. And with that, we're now into Chapter 2. You, me, and the severed head makes 3. I love your chapter names.
Thank you.
All right. So from here, the trio head back down. Because, Mimir's just a head. You and your stupid puns. Anyways, head back down the mountain to Freya so she can revive Mimir's head, which she is not thrilled about. Once resurrected, Mimir reveals that the witch is in fact Freya, which we've already name dropped. Get with it. The wife of Odin and the mother of Baldur. What a twist! So anyways, both of them, Mimir and Freya, tell Kratos that it's really important, bro, to tell Atreus, about his true nature, who he really is, what he really is.
Kratos doesn't trust Freya because she's a god, and gods are the worst if you're the son of one, and if your name is Kratos. So he and Atreus get the hell out of Dodge with Mimir and move on with their lives. Their ultimate goal, of course, is to get to Jotunheim now, but of course there's some special components needed to unlock that. On their quest,
what a twist!
They encounter 2 of Thor's sons, those guys that we saw earlier, whose names are Modi and Magni. This is another great moment where we see the difference in Kratos, where he usually is just out there beating ass until the cows come home. Now he's got somebody to worry about and look after, so it's a little bit different now.
Yeah, man. Back to that whole, you really appreciate his character now that you're a parent,
Oh, yeah, it's different.
Now you can't just be out there just throwing these hands and axes. Now you gotta, be aware of, the little kid behind you.
Yeah,
so, after some great teamwork with Atreus and Kratos, Magni is killed, because he was a dick and pretty rude.
Very rude.
Leaving Modi to escape, albeit pretty damn injured. Good. Atreus collapses, struggling with his own power and his identity, causing Kratos to take him back to Freya for help. She informs him that in order to save Atreus, Kratos must travel to Helheim, because the heart of a guardian troll is what she needs to save Atreus. Although, there's one caveat. That badass Leviathan Axe, which wields frost power, which is amazing,
Pretty cool.
Ain't gonna do shit in Helheim, because that place is frozen AF.
And what that really means is that one of the absolute greatest surprise moments of this game is you go back to your house, remove some floorboards, and painstakingly reattach the Blades of Chaos from the previous God of War games. Hell yeah. And for me, this is the big fuck yeah moment of this game. The game was, perfect up to this point. I love the way that the hand-to-hand combat handled. I love the way the Leviathan Axe handled. But when I got to throw the blades back on, and you see Athena, and she's kind of haunting you and talking about how bad of an asshole you were back in the day, and to see Kratos just really struggling to put everything back on and wrapping it around and stuff, it was just so perfect to me, just because of all my history with the franchise. So for you not really having that pedigree before, what did you think about the way that all that worked out?
So first and foremost, I love the series. By this point in time, I had watched enough videos about the previous games to really understand what the Blades of Chaos were, why he really doesn't want to put them back on, what it means to him, etc. Yeah. So I all that in mind. I knew all that going into this scene, so that made it so fucking cool. But yeah, like I said, I never played any of the other ones, so I didn't really have that deep of a connection with this weapon. Because by the time I really got into gaming, I had a PS2 and I played the shit out of it, and then from there I went straight to the Xbox. And so I had a 360. And that's really around the time where I was starting to get to where I could just get games for myself.
Yeah.
I didn't need a parent to go get them for me anymore. And at that point, I was on 360, and God of War is a PlayStation exclusive, so I couldn't play the game anyway. So I just said fuck it and moved on with my life. And that's why I hadn't played any of them, because I was on the wrong system. But all that aside, still that scene, watching him put those things on, getting to throw them around, getting to just wreck shop with them was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And you're wrong if you say otherwise.
That's true. Mind your business.
Yeah, mind your business. Wrong ass opinion. Alright, so as Kratos throws the blades back on, he sees a quick version. Yes, that was a quick version. So, as Kratos throws the blades back on, he sees a quick vision of Athena being an asshole as per usual. Kratos heads down to Helheim, beats his way through a nice horde of the undead, and it's weird because this is the first point in time in the game where you're on your own. You don't have Atreus rolling with you. It feels weird not to have like all your arrows or this kid helping you just in any way, shape, or form he could. You know, it's just you riding solo, man.
Yeah.
And not really having to worry about a kid either, so now you are just throwing hands.
Yeah, man. Guys' night.
I still threw the axe. It didn't do shit, but I still threw it.
Just because you still could, you know?
Yeah. If anything, it's just a sharp metal thing hitting him in the face. It won't freeze him, but it still hurts a little bit. It's the principle.
Yeah, and it's the impact of it all.
This motherfucker just threw an axe at me.
Man, I'm already frozen.
What is that about? But anyways, so yeah, you make your way through Helheim, you find the troll, you kill the troll, you cut out its heart, which Kratos also really didn't want to do that either.
Yeah, hickey.
But he does what he has to. He grabs the Blades of Chaos, he starts carving up, pulls the heart out of there, does the whole thing. You get to see that lovely vision of Zeus in the clouds, just doing Zeus voice and saying Kratos, and you're just like, oh shit.
Hey.
Hi, Dad. Mimir's all like, hey, bro, don't fucking go over there. And Kratos just like, all right, cool. Skiddly bops the fuck out of there, learns how to use the Blades of Chaos to control like that weird Helheim wind thing, so he can start unlocking doors, which is kind of cool because one of the little blue troll dude, I can't remember his dwarf actually, but either way, he upgrades it for you, which is dope.
Oh.
And now you're on your way. I think it was Brock. Yeah, it's Brock. Brock shows up, upgrades because he's freezing his ass off and whining and bitching. And Brock was my favorite of the two.
He was great.
He was my favorite.
Yeah, he was a fantastic. There's like a handful of like side characters that are just fantastic, and like Brocky's definitely one of my favorites. Absolutely,
for sure. So yeah, he upgrades your blades. You can start harnessing the power of this Helheim wind bullshit. You solve some puzzles, and you get the fuck out of Helheim because it's cold as a motherfucker up in this thing.
Oh yeah, and then like a core mechanic of this game is the use of weapons to solve like puzzles and problems. So the Leviathan Axe can free stuff in place or break shits. The Blades of Chaos can harness this wind power or like use its fire to like get you through like different gaps, like I said earlier. But anyway, Kratos gets the Troll Heart to Freya, who uses it to bring Atreus back. And then afterward, Kratos tells Atreus the truth, that he is in fact a demigod.
It goes about as well as you'd really expect it to go, instead of feeling grateful or like powerful or like, oh my good golly gosh, I'm part god, this is the coolest thing
ultimate ever. Power, yeah. What can I do? That's what I would have done. Like, do I have lightning?
For sure.
Or like,
I instantly would have started, like that whole like scene in the first Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire when he's trying to figure out how to do the webs.
Oh, yeah. Fly.
That would be me.
Go web.
Go. That would be me for an entire week, just like jumping off shit, seeing if I could fly, if I could shoot lightning, if I could talk to animals. But no, that's not Atreus. No. Instead, he kind of becomes a dick.
Oh, 100%.
He starts getting real cocky and real fucking arrogant. He goes from this empathetic kid who's like just like an awesome little kid. He just wants his dad to be cool and like appreciate him and like love him and whatnot, and he turns into this fucking douche of a kid who just thinks he's better than everyone because he's a god, forgetting the fact that everyone he's met up until this point is also a god.
Yeah.
Like, bro.
Very confusing.
in like the normal world, yeah, you special. In this world, you ain't special.
No, you are low on the totem pole.
You finally are now just part of the party.
You're essentially an intern, okay? So you slowly roll.
Yes.
It's like
you don't know what you can do yet. You are the intern.
And like I was constantly trying to figure out where like the beat this kid's ass button was in this game, because like you're telling me that I can fight literally any monster in existence, but I can't throw some ungrateful little shit over my knee and remind him who the god of war is. But legit, I was surprised that they went this route, because the kid was so like kind and reserved throughout the entire thing that I was impressed.
You were really rooting for him up to this point,
because you feel bad for him. He just lost his mom. His dad's super, distant, and he's kind of a maniac and stuff like that. And so like now to have him have these powers to where they should be equals, but then to mix it up a little bit to where it's completely different. I just thought that was really, really cool. Like, what do you think about that different approach to it?
I constantly threw my axe at this kid. I remember we were in party chat talking while I was playing it right after I got to that point, and I was even asking you, how do I beat this kid's ass? Because I would just constantly throw the axe at him. Anytime he came at me, some snarky ass comment or being a little shit, I just chucked the axe at him. And of course, it doesn't do anything to him. It just sails right through him. But it's the principle of the fact I threw an axe at this kid.
I killed my father. You don't think I won't kill you? I've killed so many people that are bigger and stronger.
As they continue their journey, Kratos and Atreus find the entrance to a hidden chamber, but lo and behold, here's Modi back. He's leaning against a pillar, and he has been beat to hell. He looks rough.
Oh, yeah.
You find out that Thor beat the shit out of him once Magni died, because Thor blames him for it. Mm-hmm. Which, not his fault, but, I mean, also, I don't know. One kid's dead, I guess, out of anger. You just beat the shit out of the other one if you're a Norse god. I don't know. Like, I think it's one of those, if you don't think about it, it makes sense.
Yeah. And, like, it speaks...
I'm not a Norse god, so, like, I don't know.
Aren't.
Yeah, it was rough looking at him, because, like, when you first met him, he's just this powerful son of Thor asshole, and now he just looks like shit.
Yeah.
And it's dark, man. And
it speaks to a couple things, like how powerful Thor thinks his sons are, that no one else could just come over and kill him but him. And it's just fascinating. Like, you go back to that Cain and Abel story, like Thor's first thought when seeing, your brother's dead, well, it had to have been you. You wanted the power for yourself. So it was just interesting, But it also speaks to Thor's vengeance, that he'll beat one son almost to death for killing the other one, which is crazy and really, really interesting. But what happens next?
Modi's talking mad shit to Atreus, who just found out he's a god and now is very cocky. So, holding his mother's knife, now his knife, he says that Modi should pay for what he said about his mom.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I get what kid doesn't, get super pissed off whenever, some a-hole's coming in here talking shit about your mom. Atreus wants to straight up murder him. Kratos says, fuck no, and forbids Atreus from doing anything. Saying that, Modi's already been beaten to hell. He's not even worth fighting or killing at this point. To which Atreus responds with that they're gods and they can do whatever they want, which is a sentence he keeps saying over and over, and every time he does, just chuck that axe at him one more time. Yeah. So then Atreus starts to approach Modi, still with a knife in hand. Modi taunts him one last time, saying something along the lines of, like, that whole, we're gods, we can do whatever we want. Saying that he said that same thing to Atreus' mom right before he boned her, and Atreus snaps.
Yeah, and I just thought that was insane. And so, understandably, Atreus stabs Modi in the neck, and he doesn't even react to it. He doesn't say anything other than how much better this knife is. So he stabs Modi in the neck. Modi goes down, and he's just like, oh, this knife is way better than Mother's knife. He doesn't empathize. He doesn't feel guilty. He doesn't feel anything for the life he just took. And then he goes a step further, even though, like, Kratos is pissed at him, and he kicks him off a cliff. So total 180 from, like, the Atreus that we knew this entire time, this sweet, innocent, empathetic boy, now all of a sudden is, like, got this lust for blood. And so Kratos and Atreus fight. Kratos is screaming that there are consequences for killing a god. Atreus is confused because he doesn't understand, because he doesn't think this should be a big deal, because they're gods and this is kind of uncharted territory. But then ultimately Kratos tells Atreus that, watch your tone, because you're about to get laid out, and then they strike back on their journey.
Was this the point in the story where Atreus has the new knife that Kratos made for him?
Apparently, I missed that part, but, like, he's got it now. So he stabs Modi, and then he said, because I watched the cutscene when I was putting this together, and he says, like, this is much better than Mother's knife. So I don't remember where he got it along the way.
It was when they were in tier... Yeah, no, you're right. This is the point, because to backtrack a little bit, This is actually the third time Modi shows up. The second time is when they're coming out of Tyr's vault.
Okay.
Because down in Tyr's vault, they fell into a trap, and Kratos was about to straight up die. And to save him, Atreus has to shove his mother's knife into this gearwork to stop it, so Kratos can get out, but it breaks the knife in the process.
Oh, okay.
And then they come up that elevator. Kratos gives him some of the was it the Spartan wine or whatever it was?
Oh, it was like beer or something like that. I remember that.
Yeah, there's old as shit wine.
Great. I forgot about that.
They have that little conversation where like Kratos kind of fills him in a little bit more about like who he is and whatnot, and like his how he needs to be responsible and not a little asshole, and then he turns into a little asshole.
I hate that.
And that's when Kratos, I think that both of them were like, "Do you feel that? Can you like smell that or whatever? Like the lightning and whatnot smells like it's gonna storm." Yeah. And that's when Modi shows up and is like, "You asshole! Thor's beating the piss out of me. He blames me for Magni dying. You're a dick because I had done enough. I was going to inherit the hammer, and now it's because the only reason I'm going to get it is because my brother's dead, and blah, blah, blah." And he goes on this whole tirade and then fucks off to wherever. Then gets his ass beat. Good. I hated Modi. I hated him and his brother. Yeah, such dickheads. But yeah. He does have that new knife because Kratos made 2 knives when he came here. One for himself and one for Atreus when he grew up and was worthy. He's not worthy. He's a little shithead.
Okay. So much anger out of you today.
Dude, I hated that whole portion of the story whenever he makes that switch. I get it. It works for the story, but God, I hated it. Yeah. He's just such an asshole.
Yeah, man. Struggles real.
Bro.
Struggles real.
And just that whole him having no reaction whatsoever when he straight up kills Modi. Like, bro.
Yeah. Dark.
Why Kratos just didn't boot him off the cliff right then, I'll never know. Anyways. Alright, so moving on. End rant. They finally make it to the peak in Midgard where the last portal to Jotunheim is, because you can't just take the Bifrost, because that would be easy, you know?
It's very straightforward.
Thanks, Tyr, for closing that gate, you dick. So anyways, last portal to Jotunheim's up at the top. They're getting ready to do it. I'm pretty sure they even open the gate. They can see the peak in Jotunheim that they need to go to, and Baldur shows up again like a dick. Boss fight ensues. Portal's destroyed, of course, and the 3 of them take a pretty crazy ride. There's a dragon involved. They crash into the Bifrost. A gate gets opened, and long story short, they all 3 fall into Helheim. So now we're back. And this leads us into Chapter 3, the new god on the block.
And so in Helheim, Atreus and Kratos get on much better footing, and the journey becomes a lot less full of angst and tension. And honestly, the game does feel a lot better when those two are on much better terms. All of that stuff beforehand, it was just a really rough part of the game, and it was necessary to the mechanics of the game, but I just like it a lot better when they're just, working better together as a team. So while escaping from Helheim, we see Baldur arguing with a lady that's kind of like shadowy, but it turns out to be his mother, Freya. The pair return back, the pair meaning Kratos and Atreus. It's a good band. So I would have. So the pair return back to Midgard when Mimir figures out an alternative route to Jotunheim could be used, but they have to find his missing eye, of course. And so
because he only has one.
Of course. So they travel to a land of fallen giants to find Jormungandr, who accidentally swallowed Mimir's eye. But while trying to retrieve it, they're attacked yet again by Baldur.
Yeah, man. I mean, you can't really blame him for being passionate about the hunt, you know? Yeah. Kratos and Baldur again just beat the piss out of each other. Okay. Only this time, after being defeated, Baldur turns on his mom and starts going after Freya because she showed up at some point. Shit. And he straight up tries to kill her. Tries to just choke the life from her. At this point in time, Kratos now is forced with a decision. He can either save Freya and kill Baldur, or let Freya die, because she 100% is like, nah, dude, if Baldur's all pissed off at her, hey, son, if it makes you happy, if it makes you forgive me, you can kill me. Yeah. It's really fucked up.
Yeah, very weird.
That whole...
everything about it's awful.
Thing. Anyways, he kills Baldur. Straight up snaps the dude's neck, which, why didn't we do this from the very beginning?
I agree.
Freya, despite having just been almost choked to death at the hands of her son, flips the fuck out and swears that no matter what, she will get revenge on Kratos for killing her son. Bruh, he just saved your life. Like, I get it. It's your baby boy dead on the ground. I get it. But also, saved your life.
And your baby boy's kind of the worst. So
and also helped you heal the pig from earlier back.
Ungrateful.
You're welcome.
Ungrateful. So soon after, Kratos tells Atreus that Baldur isn't the only god he's killed. He's actually killed several, a lot, of his fellow Greek
Please
gods.
see my resume.
It's attached. There's a cover letter, but it's all in blood. And he's killed, a lot of fellow Greek gods, including his own father, Zeus. Atreus is super bummed out by this murder spree and tells him that it would be good to learn from those experiences and not to repeat, Kratos' mistakes.
Kratos even says the line, "We have to be better."
Mm-hmm.
And it's true. You got to be better.
Got to.
All right, so fast forward. There's some footwork involved, but now we're finally in Jotunheim. The two find the temple left by the giants, covered in murals everywhere. Just everywhere. And they're actually pretty dope. Like, the artwork and everything.
Very cool.
Amazing.
Oh, yeah.
It is one of my favorite places in the entire game. It sucks that you're there for such a short amount of time. Yeah. So, yeah, there's murals everywhere, and they're really startled to find a series of murals that showcase the entire journey Kratos and Atreus just took. Mm-hmm. Panel by panel, their journey is displayed all the way up to one shockingly confusing ending panel, which at first glance appears to be the image of Atreus holding someone that appears to be drawn like Kratos in his arms, and dude's dead.
And so,
with like snakes or something coming out of his stomach.
And so I did a deep dive into that when I was putting the script together, and I think it's pretty fascinating what a few different takes of it are. And then I wanted to share one specifically. So one YouTuber named Kaptain Kuba, with both with K's, K for Captain, K for Kuba, leverages the mural and the expansion novel for the God of War to highlight the fact that he doesn't think that it's actually Kratos at all that died.
I've actually seen that video.
Yeah, it's pretty
Not
good.
knowing you were watching it too. I've watched a lot of Kaptain Kuba's video.
Yeah, I've never heard of him
God
before.
of War specifically.
He did a good job, though.
Dude's got some good stuff.
Yeah. So he and I'll link that above so you guys can check that out as well. So in the mural, none of Kratos. In the mural, none of Kratos' facial markings or tattoos are depicted. Neither are any of his weapons, as they are in the other ones. So, while to me, staring at the image, it does have that goatee, that bald look of Kratos, it is very clear in the other murals that, all around the other panels, it's got his armor, it's got his, weapons, it's got that specific tattoo and stuff like that, so iconic to Kratos. And like that, even like that Omega symbol and stuff that we see so much. But none of that is in this other one. So, what are we left to presume? Will Kratos eventually die at the hands of Atreus, continuing the cycle? Is this, entirely another god that Atreus kills, and then some other giant beast is released? Or does, Atreus discover the power to bring people back from the dead? Which to me, and he didn't say this, they were kind of talking about the World Serpent. I was really kind of fascinated by the way that everything's coming out of his mouth and kind of twirling and kind of going into this other thing. And Atreus' whole thing is like languages and words and his ability to understand how different things look. And so to me, it's less about somebody dying, more about Atreus' ability to resurrect somebody and like what his actual god power is. Because right now we know his languages and stuff like that, but we don't really know what he's capable of. So to me, I read that a little bit differently, especially after watching this guy's video, where now I don't think that's Kratos either. I think it's something else going on, and it's, Atreus actually activating into what he's supposed to become. That's what I got from it.
I can see that. I don't necessarily know that he's going to gain the ability to bring someone back from the dead. Because then we're going to have this whole story arc where he's going to try to bring his mom back, even though we've cremated her. And, like, once you're cremated, like, that's kind of it.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. At first glance, I thought it was Kratos. But then after, like, looking back into it, I don't necessarily think it is him either. There was one thing I saw that it was... So Kratos' whole thing, he's the god of war. He has, that Spartan rage and everything where he just goes insane and starts wrecking shop.
Yeah.
One of the things I saw or read, I don't remember, but it was a theory that somehow Kratos and Atreus finds a way to kind of calm the rage, and it's supposed to be like that happening. Which, like, that's cool, but also, like, nah, man, you leave the rage where it's at. We kind of need that.
Very helpful, a lot.
Yeah, it's literally exactly why he's the god of war. I'm pretty sure you take that away, he's going to be a little bit
then he becomes
less impressive.
The god of good times, and he's just down to kick it.
The god of being mildly annoyed sometimes.
Usually very irked. The god of irked.
I could see it being something along the lines of, like, Atreus... I don't know, like... I have an idea. I just don't know how do I want to word it. Where it's some like him just receiving knowledge or language or something like that from.
Oh shit! So he's like sucking the
else.
life out of that guy and the information.
Not necessarily like not being like a vampire in the
Kirby.
sense. That is horrifying to think of. But no, like somehow he finds, like, for instance, like, spoiler alert, there's dead giant bodies all over the place in Jotunheim. Like somehow finds a way to like pull the knowledge from them.
Oh, that would be cool.
Something
Yeah,
like
because
that.
they're already dead.
And it goes up and just puts the hand on their head and just like Professor X's it, where he can just read their mind
Nice.
somehow.
That'd be cool.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, I'd be alright with that.
Finds a way to just like force someone to tell him information. So I don't know. It'd be cool to kind of take in that route where it's more of like him gaining, new languages, experiences, information from people.
Yeah,
I think that'd be pretty sweet.
I think so too.
But I have no idea. I'm super excited for what they're gonna do next.
Cool.
But moving on, the ending is great because it sets up a lot more questions for what we, fingers crossed, are going to see in the future, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the biggest reveals and surprises for both Kratos and Atreus is the fact that Faye, Kratos' wife, Atreus' mom, was a giant all along.
What a twist!
What a twist! So while the bulk of the story is focused on Kratos telling Atreus that he's a demigod, this new piece of information showcases that Atreus is also the last living giant, or half giant, and he's also half god. So we learn throughout the murals on the wall that the giants had foretold this entire thing happening. Like, they knew this shit was going to go. Then they knew that Baldur was hunting Faye, not Atreus. We also learned that Atreus was named... Kratos named Atreus, in honor of this compassionate Spartan warrior, general, whatever, that Atreus knew from back in the old days. But Faye had also given him an entirely different name, and she gave him the name of, are you ready for it? Loki.
Yeah!
Yeah.
And obviously most of what the community knows about Loki is based on the Marvel Cinematic Universe, unless you're specifically in a group of people that are like diehard Norse mythology. But the cool thing is...
Which also, on that real quick, do you know how hard it is to look up Norse mythology information pertaining to Thor now that all, the Marvel MCU exists?
I'm sure the
You
SEO
have to
has
add...
been insane. Oh, yeah.
You have to add Norse mythology to the end of every search, otherwise you're going to get a shit ton of information for Thor and Freya and Loki from the MCU.
Yeah, man, that's called
a nightmare.
It's called a long tail keyword, and you got to figure out how to use them properly.
I hate it.
So the cool thing is that we'll be able to learn a lot more about this version of Norse mythology throughout the remainder of this game. So as the game ends, the trio head back to Midgard and notice it's snowing. So Mimir mentioned that this isn't just any kind of winter. This is a 3-year-long Thimble winter, which is sort of an appetizer to Ragnarok, which again, most people know from the MCU as the destruction of Asgard, but I'm sure it's going to play out a little bit differently in this world.
As you begin your journey back home, you'll be able to revisit almost every location open in the game. You can kind of just skilly bop around, do whatever you want, pick up all those tie-ups and loose ends, that sort of fun thing. Finish up anything you've missed out on, like going and freeing, releasing all the dragons, which is pretty cool. Their backstory's pretty awesome. Yep. Freeing the cursed Valkyries, again, backstory's pretty awesome. Or just like hunting down all the various chest, gear, trophies, achievements, whatever you're looking for. You can do that now, pretty well, unhindered by anything. But when you're ready to kind of wrap this up, you head back home, and now some cool shit happens. So you get home, you walk in the front door, you're tired AF. There's still a hole in your ceiling, by the way, from where you and Baldur brought it out. Nice. We'll fix that later. But I thought it was funny because like you get in there, Atreus places Mimir's head down next to the fire in a nice little cozy location, so you can kind of just stare into the fire as you do. Kratos goes and sits down his bed. Atreus goes and sits down his, and Kratos tells him, just go to bed, just go to sleep. And I thought it was funny because like they're sleeping, and there's a giant hole letting snow in on top of them right above.
Yeah, it's a skylight. It's peaceful. It's nice. A little cold. They're next to a fire. It's fine.
Yeah, it's whatever. But so yeah, the trio settle in for the first restful night they've had in quite some time. Also, how hungry do they have to be? This whole story started off by Kratos being hungry and them going out hunting, and they've never eaten this entire time. time. Homeboy's got to be starving at this point. You think that's why he was able to beat Baldur? Not only did he have the Spartan Rage, I think, but he's also hangry AF.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think that played a lot into this.
You're different. You're another person when you're hungry.
You're a totally different person. But, so they all go to bed, because, let's be real, they've earned it. So while they're sleeping, we are taken to a cutscene that takes place 3 years later, when the Fimbulwinter is about to wrap it up. You hear thunder, you see the cracks of lightning, shit's getting real. They're woken up in a stir. They're kind of freaking out, like, what the hell's happening? Kratos yells at Atreus to, grab his bow. He grabs the axe off the wall. Lightning rips a hole in the roof that they just fixed. Man, come on. So with bow and axe in hand, they kind of throw open the front door, and there's some dude in like a cloak sitting in their front yard, and there's just lightning going everywhere. It's like a disco out here, man. Kratos just yells out, "Who are you?" And all of a sudden the wind whips up and blows the cloak away, and you see a hammer on the dude's waist, and you know it's Thor, God of Thunder. I said Coke at one point, which is why I just reset that.
So the two wake up in present day to a very confused Atreus, explaining his dream to Kratos and how much differently it felt than a normal dream. Kratos says that if it is the future, it can wait till tomorrow because there's work to do today. And that's a wrap on God of War.
Maybe that's part of his thing too, is like he would get, some sort of like future telling premonition nonsense in addition to all, like, it would make sense if Atreus' godlike powers and abilities are all more like knowledge based. It'd be cool if he could see some, like, it flashes of the future and whatnot.
As mentioned earlier, we have this community retcon section where we kind of ask for feedback and we throw it in. This one's a little bit different because I sent out a request for comment in 3 different areas, 2 of which were held and they were pending and they never saw the light of day. So we actually only have one just because we didn't have time to get a whole lot of these. So we're going to read this one just because this guy named DarkEagle Gaming gave us some feedback and I want to honor that. Going forward, I'll try to send that request out a little bit earlier so we can get some more feedback from the community. So, DarkEagle Gaming says, I've never played a God of War before this one, but the combat and gameplay seemed to flow really well, and the way they told the story in a single camera shot was just amazing. I like the exploration and coming back to the area more, experiencing and looting it for all its goodies. I'm hoping in the next game they really focus on the boy's story and what we learn about him in the end. Which, yeah, totally makes sense. Any thoughts on that?
Same. I really, it's God of War series, so Kratos needs to be there. We need to focus on Kratos, but I'm really hoping that we hit Atreus a little bit harder. Both literally, because he was a shithead for a little while, but also just in the sense of, like, really let him flush out who he is as, this half-giant, half-god kid who's also, his name is Loki. I want to see... What I would love to see is that they're going to take in the route of where, like, all the shenanigan-based bullshit that Loki gets into, both, in the MCU, which is great. They're obviously not going to pull that in there, but I like to reference it. But also specifically, like, all the bullshit he does in Norse mythology. I want to see if any of that's really going to start playing into
the opening scene of the next game is they're doing the get help bit where, like, Atreus pretends to be injured and then Kratos throws at a bunch of people to knock him down.
Fuck yeah, man. I'm here for it.
I'm here for it. So all right. So, like I said, next time we'll be a little bit more on our game about the community retcon section. But for us, Bryar, why don't you kick that off? What would you change, and what would you add? What would you like to see next time?
All right. So, few things I'd retcon. Up top, I would change, Atreus' little "I'm a god and I can do whatever I want" stint. I mean, I get we all go through that angsty phase in our teens, but, like, again, I lobbed an axe at this kid as often as I could. He was such just a dick, and for him to go from such, like, an awesome kid that you were really rooting for to, like, this little asshole that I wanted to throw off a cliff. Oh, yeah. For the story, it made perfect sense, and it worked really well and really helped for his character development down the road. But God, I hated it so much.
Same.
So moving on from there, I would have maybe given a little bit more time once, Atreus kind of calmed the fuck down and was a little bit more chill and understanding that he has responsibilities, and just because he's a god doesn't mean he can be an asshole. Yeah. From that point forward, there was, like, a whole conversation between Kratos and Atreus where Atreus was asking, like, what powers do I have? Can I do this? Can I do that? I would love to have let them spend a little bit, like, not go deep dive into it because that's what the next game's for, but, like, show a little bit of it.
Yeah.
And I get, like, I think Mimir even mentioned that, Atreus is, being so fluent in all these different languages and everything, like maybe Mimir says like maybe that is your thing, and if that's the case, cool. Then they kind of did, showcase that a little bit, but like make that, like establish that then, like, all right, this is one of his things. He
and he's both. He's half god and he's half giant. So how much of this is his giant power, and then if that's not even his god power, what is his god power?
Yeah, I'm not saying you have to completely showcase what this kid brings to the table, but like sneak peeks and like established sneak peeks, not just like a maybe this is like, no, tell me, is this or is this not?
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, just kind of flush him being half giant, half god out a little bit more. And then last thing, I would have loved to have seen like a legit appearance of Odin showing up. I mean, you have all of his little bullshit ravens that are everywhere that are obnoxious, sneaky sneaks. And I get why they didn't necessarily put him in here. He didn't need to be in here. It kind of probably been a little bit of overkill as far as like this pantheon of gods showing up, but it'd been cool for him just to show up once and like tell Kratos to fuck off or something, like, hey man, quit being a dick, get the fuck out of here, you're not supposed to be here.
Right, for sure.
Something. But I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
Moving on, in the next game, I want to fight Thor. I want to beat his ass, which is weird for me to say because of how much I love Thor, but like in this game, I want to beat his ass. Yeah, I want to see Thor and the World Serpent actually brawl it out like they do in Ragnarok.
Cool. I'm here for that.
I want to see that fight, which there's this whole, in Ragnarok, when Thor and Jormungandr are fighting, Jormungandr, fuck, the World Serpent, actually has a venom that he infects Thor with.
Oh.
I can't remember what it's called. It starts with an E. But
ectoplasm?
No. But anyways, this established venom, that short little name starts with an E, it's like Etreat or something like that. At the beginning of the game, when you chuck the axe into the lake and Jormungandr spits it back out, it happens real quick. If you're not paying attention, you'd miss it. But it does say that the axe is imbued with that thing, with that venom.
Cool.
So like one of the things was like, all right, is this going to play out later? Because like that venom is what helped to kill Thor. So like, is this foreshadowing that we are going to get to brawl it out with Thor? Like, is this why we were able to kill?
Do you have to kill Jormungandr and take his venom as a weapon to kill Thor? Is that like
Well, your axe is already imbued with it.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, that's when he spits it back out and it lands in the boat.
I thought you were meaning that it's imbued for like a second and then like it wears off and then you don't have it for the rest of the game.
No, it only happens at one time. And I'm assuming it's the entire game. Cool. It lands there on the boat and it just pops up there that it's been imbued with it. And I just assume that the axe is now imbued with it for moving forward.
Well, good.
So like, does this mean I get to fucking just axe Thor in the face? Because I'm here for it. Do I get to take the hammer? And to go on with that, I want to see Atreus pick up the hammer. I don't want Kratos to have it. I want Atreus to have it.
That's cool. That's a nice. You have that Captain America moment where you just see it lift and like Kratos is on his back and he's beaten to death. Yeah.
I want to see Atreus put it in the bow and launch it at someone.
Thor and Kratos are both like, what the fuck are we doing?
I want Kratos on his back getting the shit beat out of him by Thor, just on top raining down, and all of a sudden the hammer just thunks against his head, knocks his ass out, and you look over and Atreus is just holding the bow like,
and he's got like this shot. He's like
holy shit, that worked.
I didn't think that was gonna work either. That's so cool.
And to go along with that too, let's get some other like Norse weapons in there, because like I think if I remember correctly, like Thor needs a special pair of gloves to wield Mjolnir, because Mjolnir's handle was actually supposed to be a lot longer, and it was accidentally made short into like that single-handed thing, so he has to wear special gloves to use it. Throw those in there. That'd be cool. Like, give those to Atreus, let him wield the hammer, and let him be a badass with it, so now he can actually get like melee combat in.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
And then last thing I want to see in the next game, what the fuck happened to all the giants? Why are they all dead?
Who killed them?
Like, I mean, like,
what was the war like?
Like, Norse mythology will tell you what happened to them. Like, they're all dead and shit. But like but in the game story, which obviously is not an exact Norse mythology, because that'd be dumb to build a game. But like in the game world, what the fuck happened to him? Because like Tyr sealed the gate so Odin couldn't get to him.
Right.
That was the whole thing. That was why like the Jotunheim gate's missing from the Lake of the Nine, because Tyr basically took the gate and fucked off. Yeah. So like, why are they all dead? Why is there that one that's in the background, his hands just like reaching up, all like,
Yeah.
Why are they all dead? Tell me why they're dead.
Please tell me why.
My car is in the front lawn.
And I
Sleeping with my clothes on.
came through the window. Okay. We got to end this shit, man. We've been doing this for... We got to stop.
It is time to wrap this up. We have... All right, so that was mine. What you got?
All right, so the reboot was absolutely incredible to me. Like we've talked about in the writer's room, the initial E3 response still gives me goosebumps when I think about it, just because of how stoked we were to hear the orchestra and see this different version of Kratos walking in with a beard. There's just something about that was just so phenomenal. I really, really loved it. The only thing that I would change, because really this game was spectacular. I got no problems with that.
It really was.
If I could change one thing, it would be to add a section where we would restore Mimir's entire body. Because that guy, if you think about it, had a really tough go of it. He's tortured nonstop by Odin. He's like melded into the tree. So like you see him and he's like kind of like, you know, almost like crucifix kind of thing. But like his arms are like kind of where the branches are, and like his lower torso is like built into the wood and stuff like that. And it's just so dark and weird and stuff like that. So, you know, this guy has this terrible life, and then he spends the rest of the journey, you know, just helping Kratos and Atreus on their journey. But he's also a key that helps them get to Jotunheim. He's a reason that they can finish their quest. And his reward to all of this is just to be a head that can be placed by a fire and to tell stories. Like, that sucks. And so throughout the game, you kind of do favors for a couple other people, you know, like Fafnir, the former person who becomes a dragon. You unleash him, and then there's all these spirits that you kind of help
Which
out.
his backstory was pretty cool.
Yeah, and so you could have done one more favor that was just focused on getting Mimir kind of back up and running and restoring his, you know, body form in some capacity. I think that would have been.
And there's
really
a whole
cool.
story you could go with right there too, because I'm pretty sure, I could be totally wrong. I could just be making this up, but I'm pretty sure Mimir even talks about how, like, if you try to cut the tree he's in, it just grows back,
Yeah.
and like he can't escape. So like you could have this whole thing of like finding some bullshit thing that will let you actually like kill the tree and free his body,
Or,
and then
you know, you kill something else and attach his head to it or something, you know, something to give him his, like, legs back, you know?
You couldn't go to Freya for help because she revived his head, but she's super pissed
Right.
at you, so she's not
We're
fixing
not
his
on
body for
talking
you.
terms right now. We all been there. Silent
So you're gonna have to
treatment.
find a whole new thing, but still, like, that could be hell. They could have even done that in an expansion. To be truthfully
Yeah,
honest
I would've
with you,
been
they
alright
wouldn't
with
rent that route. Just like the entire expansion is called Saving Mimir.
So, but that was it. I thought the game was spectacularly done. I had no issues with any aspect of it whatsoever. I loved playing through it. Multiple playthroughs, I'm sure, like a lot of people have. But that was it. That's the only thing that I would change. Now,
Ooh, can I add one
Sure.
more too? Because talking about Mimir reminded me of
absolutely.
it. So Mimir has a well called Mimir's Well.
Good name.
It's in Jotunheim, under one of the roots of the life tree Yggdrasil.
Okay.
All that to say, that well is the source of Mimir's knowledge and whatnot in Norse mythology. It'd have been fucking cool if like that somehow played into it. Like while they're in Jotunheim, Mimir's like, "Hey, can we just like stop over here real quick and like just like somehow play that into there?" And like that could have been something for Atreus, because like it kind of seems like his whole thing is more knowledge based. Like he could have looked into the well or done whatever it is you have to do with the well. I don't really remember. I don't know if it's just look from it, drink from it, whatever.
I think
Either
you
way,
toss a coin, I think.
yeah, man. Toss a coin to Mimir's well. Toss a coin to your Witcher.
Yeah.
It's a whole thing. You're just flinging quarters everywhere. But no, that would have been cool to like kind of really flush out more of Atreus's potential god powers. You know, having Mimir's well play into that. That'd have been fucking cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Cool.
I don't know. Either add that. That would have been either if I would like to see differently in this game, or that'd be cool if it shows up in the next game.
So we'll see. So speaking of the next God of War game, obviously, just like you, I want to beat Thor to death. Obviously, specifically, kind of different than you, I want
With these hands.
I want to take his hammer mid battle and then kill him with it. And obviously that needs to be a key weapon. Then going forward, like, I don't want Thor to be an ending boss fight. I want Odin to be an ending boss fight. I want to fight Thor pretty relatively early. Maybe, I'm sure they can pepper in some other people or whatever, but like pretty early I want to be able to kill him and take the hammer of Thor. And even if I don't get to use it for the entire game, maybe I gift that to, like you were saying with the gloves and Atreus gets it and stuff like that. I'm totally cool with that. But mid-battle, I want to take it and have him surprised that I have it and can wield it, and then just beat him to death with it. I think that would be fantastic. Keep the axe, keep the blades, add the hammer, and then use that to go hunt down Odin's bitch ass, who probably is none too pleased that his kids keep dying. Well, his kids and his grandkids keep dying left and right.
And you're the asshole who keeps doing it.
Yeah, but Kratos is the foremost authority on murdering gods, so what are you going to do? I also want to move the story forward a little bit in time to where Atreus is 14 or like 16. So we know that like the winter is a 3-year-long one, and then that starts the end of Ragnarok. I still, so how old do we peg Atreus in this game? I'm terrible
does he
at
have
ages.
An official age?
I have no idea. I'm terrible at ages. That's what I'm asking. What would you peg him at?
I would say honestly probably around like
10, 11?
10, 11.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, same time.
So, let's say 3 years later, he's 14 or 15, or if we can push a little bit further, 16 or 17, I want to see like a young adult Atreus. He's a hell of a lot stronger. He's still reckless, maybe a little too confident in his abilities, but then I want to see some weapon variation and spend some time with him one-on-one. He's great with the bow, but like, what else has he got? Let's see, and especially if we can work that in where he gets the hammer, or maybe he's even gifted the axe. It would be cool to see him strike out on his own. He doesn't have the protection of Kratos, and to see how he just kind of handles things and explores the world, and that would be a cool opportunity. And then I think it would be really cool as well if at some point in the game, Atreus has to put on the Blades of Chaos just to fight somebody, so we were saying earlier, Kratos is on his back, Thor is beating the shit out of him, and then he comes at him with the hammer. It would be cool if later on in the game, maybe even with Odin or something, right before Kratos beats it, Atreus puts on the Blades of Chaos, and then he becomes the next god of war, and then just starts going banana sandwich and stuff. I think that would be so cool, like just kind of the passing of the torch kind of thing. Now, I don't want Atreus to ascend to the god of war and then to lose Kratos, because I think he's so prominent. But even if he takes kind of more of a backseat going forward, I would be all right with that if they do it right. So that was it. The game was phenomenal. There's only a couple things I'd change. I have a lot of hope for the next one. We're probably 2 years out from, we're probably a year out from some teasers, 2 years out from actually playing this thing. But I can't wait. I can't wait to play the sequel to see what else to do with it.
For sure. And a quick Google search says that the God of War novel puts Atreus at 11 years old.
Nice. Look at us. Look at us. Huh? Hey, look at us.
Yeah.
Well, so speaking of being done, let's go ahead and put this baby to bed because it's almost 12:40 in the morning. We need to go ahead and shut this down.
Yeah. I am the sleepies.
All right. So, Bryar, thank you for staying out so late, hanging out to talk about God of War. People at home, thank you so much for hanging with us, watching us, listening to us, or whatever you're doing. You are welcome to check us out on Twitter via @RetconAir. We do a lot of work on Facebook as well, facebook.com/RetconAir. If you're watching this on YouTube, obviously we would welcome you to become a subscriber to our Retcon crew. We're happy to have you. No matter where you're listening, we appreciate it. If there's a way that you can give us some positive feedback on any of the platforms, that'd be great. YouTube, Facebook, wherever else, we really appreciate it. And if you like this show, don't hesitate to reach out. Yeah, tell your friends about it, share it around. We get bigger as you tell other people about that, and we appreciate that. So we do live episodes on the 1st and the 15th of each and every month. We have a lot of other things in the works, Let's Plays and tutorials and such that we drop whenever we want to. Shelbadiah Fitch is going gangbusters on this Retcon Reads series. Now, depending on when you ever listen to this episode, it might have already debuted or whatever else, I don't know. But if you're listening to this fresh, I will tell you that she's already 6 episodes deep, and I'm trying to catch up to her just to edit it all. So she's all about it. I can't wait for you guys to hear it. It'll be a great addition to the Retcon Studios series. So I'm really excited.
She's been having a blast writing them too. She's all in on it, and I'm here for it.
Yeah. So I mean, bit by bit, Retcon Studios is becoming more and more of a media company, not just a podcast, which I'm really excited about. And I'll just leave it there for now. There's so much I want to tell you about what I want to do in the future, but we've already kept you here for probably an hour and 45 minutes, and I don't want to take any more of your time. So, as we close out, thank you very much for all of your support, all of your continued support. We make this show because we love to do it. Obviously, I told you earlier that I do this for myself, but really, we do it because we like being able to talk about this stuff with you guys. So, for all of us on our Retcon Air team, thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you next time.
See ya.